Well, here is a path that is leading out of Jerusalem, and one can just imagine the two people walking on this path and another third one joining them, and they tell him, haven't you heard about the resurrection in Jerusalem? And they have a chat until they get to Emmaus. But where is that Emmaus? Maybe it's right over here. Shalom everyone, welcome to another vlog by Danny the Digger, and this time within the sequence of following Jesus in Jerusalem, I am trying to resolve that very elusive site called Emmaus. The site mentioned in the Gospel of Luke is where Jesus appeared after his resurrection. And this site has two facts in its favor. A, the Arabic name of these ruins is Khirbet Beit-Mizza, ruins of the house of Mizza. And the name Mizza may suggest that it's preserving the old name of Emmaus. Second of all, this site does have first century remains. In fact, right over here, there is a ritual bath, a mikveh, a place where the Jews, and especially in the time of the temple, would immerse their bodies to purify. Let me zoom in to show. It's still working. I'm not going to dip in this water. I don't need to purify. I'm not going to any temple, but it is still holding water. It just rained recently, and it is actually holding the water. 2,000 years old ritual bath that is still working. And one can see over here the edge of the first step leading into it. Is this maybe the ritual bath of the house of Calliopas? We are told in the story, or in tradition, that one of the figures in the story of Emmaus, his name was Calliopas. And here you have ruins of a house. Maybe there's a doormat there saying, "Welcome to my house, Calliopas." Well, that's a bit of a wishful thinking, but you know what I mean. If we have had any clear archaeological evidence linking the ruins here to the story, that would be amazing. But not only do we not have any doormats with names, if you look at the architecture, you can tell right away this is not typical to Roman times. This is a type of a vaulted arch, which is common more to the days of the Crusaders, and in this case it's probably Mamluk or maybe even from Ottoman times. So yes, there was an Arab village here abandoned already in Ottoman times, and there are more ruins of that abandoned site here above. But in 1873, Clermont-Ganneau, the French scholar, was the first one to suggest maybe Emmaus is over here. And my friend Dr. Yaakov Billig has conducted here excavations in the 1990s prior to the construction or the expansion of another suburb of Jerusalem in this area called Mevaseret Zion. Let me get to the hilltop so you can see the whole area around us now all built up. In fact, while conducting the research for this site, I remembered that even we considered buying a home at the edge of this ridge. Okay? And the surveys and the partial excavation he conducted indicated clearly there are antiquities here, so this site is protected. Modern construction cannot be done here, and what we need is a larger scale type of expedition, archaeological expedition, to uncover more of this site. Currently, all we have are bits and pieces, like the little square at the corner of this house. Its upper part is definitely Ottoman, but maybe the lower part, actually you see there's like a doorway there. Maybe that relates to the first century. Wow, to think that this little abandoned place, rarely visited by anyone, could actually be the site where the appearance of Jesus after his resurrection took place. That is mind-boggling. But I have to confess, it's got also its problems. Yes, we started reviewing the topic of where is Emmaus at the site of Emmaus Nicopolis. We've seen that the site is very convincing, but it's just too far. It doesn't match the distance given by Luke, saying Emmaus was hexaconta stadia, to quote the original Greek, 60 stadia, or about 7 miles from Jerusalem. The site of Emmaus Nicopolis is more than double in distance. Here, by the way, is a cistern, a typical cistern for the mountains of Jerusalem to collect the rainwater. And it's also the early springtime, so we have the blooming of the cyclamens, beautiful pinkish to whitish colors. I wish it wouldn't be as dirty here, but look at these beautiful early spring flowers. Okay, but let's not get distracted. We're trying to find Emmaus, and Emmaus Nicopolis was too far. The Crusaders suggested to locate Emmaus within the today's Arab village of Abu Ghosh, which has one big advantage: it is just the right distance. But it's lacking archaeological evidence, and even the Crusader church that is standing there to this day with its frescoes doesn't contain any imagery that relates to the story of Emmaus. In addition to this, not too far from Abu Ghosh, a bit to the north, the Catholics have uncovered a medieval village with another Crusader era church. It's called El Kubeba. And you might see in the literature also some proposing that El Kubeba is the site. Again, it's the right distance. It does not preserve the name, and Kubeba, kind of like Abu Ghosh, doesn't really carry any first century remains. So a third candidate, or maybe a fourth by now, is the site of Mozza. My very previous chapter was reviewing a site that is in the valley in front of us. Let me get to the viewpoint towards Mozza. And that site is known also from the Old Testament. In fact, recent archaeological research there has uncovered an amazing discovery that might relate to the Ark of the Covenant. Do follow my other series of Stations of the Ark of the Covenant for the Iron Age site of Mozza and the possibility the Ark actually rested there. But again, I'm being distracted. In the time of Jesus, Mozza was known as a source of the willows to be used in the altar of the temple in Jerusalem. Here, Mozza is just down there and around the corner. But when Josephus tells us in gruesome detail of the conquest and destruction of Jerusalem, he tells us that in the aftermath, Vespasian settled 800 of his veteran Roman soldiers in a site called Emmaus. Emmaus, like Emmaus. Although it starts with an alpha, not an epsilon, it really sounds similar. And we have found also some first century remains at that site. However, there is a problem that now the distance is too close. Josephus himself tells us that Emmaus is 3 conta stadia from Jerusalem, 30 stadia. It's exactly half of the distance that the Gospel of Luke tells us. And Khirbet Beit-Mizza up here is pretty much the same distance. Both sides do not match the description when it comes to the distance. So what do we do? Where are you, Emmaus? Could you please raise your hand? Could you please tell us, where are you hiding? Well, you know what? I think that the first site that I reviewed is the right site after all. And for this, we need to take into account a few factors. First of all, as I said in the chapter reviewing Emmaus Nicopolis, Eusebius, a fourth, oh my God, a jar handle. Ha! Look at this. Hard to tell the date of those things. Oh my God, it might even have a stamp on it. Okay, I'm going to clean it up and report to the Israel Antiquities Authority on this. Eusebius, a 4th century, very, very significant historical source, tells us that the city that in his days is called Nicopolis was once upon a time Emmaus. And we have also other pilgrims from the Byzantine period saying so. But there is another very, very important piece of evidence that you should be aware of. Another discovery of an ancient manuscript. Everyone is very familiar, well, at least in the field of biblical archaeology, with the Dead Sea Scrolls. But there's another startling discovery made in the 19th century in the monastery of Santa Caterina at the foothill of Mount Sinai. And in the archive of that monastery, today maintained by the Greek Orthodox, they found a complete copy of both the Old Testament and New Testament in Greek. An amazing, amazing document that is known today as Codex Sinaiticus. Codex Sinaiticus. And that document is worth a lot of study and maybe a whole series by itself. But I want to refer to one specific phrase that is placed there when it talks about the story of Emmaus, and when it provides the detail of the distance, it adds one number, like one digit to the distance. Not 60 stadia, but 160 stadia. Do you realize the meaning of this? If you add one digit, then all of a sudden the distance from Jerusalem to Emmaus Nicopolis is just the right distance. So yes, I am following the scholarship that is arguing that the original distance in the Gospel of Luke was 160 stadia, which is the right distance, but someone erred, someone failed to copy that number, that digit, and everyone else followed. Eusebius was aware of this, but he just mentioned the fact that Emmaus Nicopolis is indeed the right location, and that's it. Okay, so Emmaus Nicopolis has the name, has the distance, following the Sinaiticus version, and it does have first century remains, although I admit we need more excavation to substantiate the remains from the first century. But Josephus definitely tells us of this being a Jewish town and later another colony of Roman veterans. So it is Emmaus Nicopolis, in my humble opinion, where we should look for that event of Jesus cutting the bread, being recognized, and then moving on. So what's next? Well, the Gospel of Luke actually tells us that he went back to Jerusalem and appeared to the disciples. So I'm going to eventually go back to Jerusalem and review the site claiming to be that location. But the other Gospels tells us that he actually went up to the Galilee and appeared to the disciples while they were fishing and invited them for some grilled fish, and then he appointed Peter. A great story, but this will be reviewed in the following series, which will probably be called Following Jesus in the Galilee. But the book of Acts tells us that after all of this, Jesus returns to the heavens. He joins his heavenly Father from Mount of Olives. So the next chapter is actually going to be back in Jerusalem in the Chapel of the Ascension on the top of Mount of Olives. Okay, isn't that all exciting? So thank you all for watching, following. Those who have just joined, make sure to hit subscribe, like, and to get alerts. For those who are supporting me, thank you so much. Toda rabba, Efcharistopoli. For those considering to do so, it is so appreciated. The tourists are still not back. It seems like from March there will be a good flow of tourism. The vlogs will then have to wait. I'm sorry, but for now I'm so appreciative that people are enabling me to keep doing this and provide this great content of the sites of the Old Testament and the New Testament. Amazing. Toda rabba, y'all. Bye bye.